is with JCCSI, and I'm going to allow her speaker to introduce her. But she is so full of life, and she just illuminates the room when she walks in, and she's just an expert in the area, and I'm so glad that she's with us this afternoon. So I'm going to allow Mr. Bowles to come up and introduce our presenter for the afternoon. We also have a panel discussion for the afternoon. We're going to have some more drawings. Mr. Bowles?
I guess there's so many things I can say about Ms. Ward. I met her as a student at college, where I became a peer advocate, informing my fellow classmates and schoolmates about the importance of knowing about HIV, the pandemic, and how it affects us specifically in the African American community, especially our women. Of course, we know that there's an increasing trend in black homosexual males, so it was also important that we spread that message as well. 5 years ago, there had never been a SAMHSA grant funded in Arkansas, and Ms. Ward was the first one to be able to write a grant that they actually funded the state of Arkansas to be able to spread the message of HIV/AIDS prevention, trying to combat with the stigmas that keep people from getting tested, from getting educated. And so without further ado, I'd just like to introduce Ms. Sybil Ward.
Well, hey everybody. I got me a big jug of hot tea, so we're going to bear with me. But how about this? World AIDS Day. World AIDS Day, after 30 years of this pandemic, worldwide epidemic, the world stops and pauses to say World AIDS Day. A disease that boldly told humanity, but we had failed to recognize ourselves. HIV was a human disease, and it would require us humans to boldly address it, as well as we've heard from some of the speakers today. HIV and AIDS, human immunodeficiency virus which causes AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. You'll see these posters, hopefully you've seen them in Little Rock, Jonesboro, and Pine Bluff. This one says, Uniting to Prevent HIV and AIDS. And this symposium is a prime example of what it's actually going to take to address HIV and AIDS, not just arrest, but eradicate HIV and AIDS. I've been in a lot of conferences that talk about ending HIV and AIDS and exactly how it is that we do this. When I was born, we didn't have anything about HIV and AIDS. My children, which are 20, 21, and 22, have never known a world without HIV and AIDS. But their children can, if we recognize that we are stronger together than we ever are apart. With competition for funding, with the high level of competitiveness, with what we've seen in the political arena, we cannot afford to stand as humans and recognize there is no time for our smallness. We are greater when we unite together, just like we've come today with all of these agencies that have stood together and said, this is World AIDS Day. This affects humans. What kind of humans? Every person that's been infected with HIV and AIDS, I submit to you, was somebody's child. Can you feel that? Somebody's child. Somebody's, and I ask this all the time, and I'm going to ask you now. How many of you in this room have a sister that you love? Or love sometimes? How many of you got a brother that you love? Sometimes. Sometimes. I know that's right, boy. Brothers make you pray. And how many of you have a cousin that you love? Okay, some of y'all are not from Arkansas, because if you're from Arkansas, you got a cousin. Is that right? Now, when I brought that up, there was an image that went through your mind. When I said a sister, a brother, a cousin. Now I want to ask you, if that individual that went through your mind was infected with HIV and AIDS, would you be affected?
Yes.
Without a doubt, you said it without a reservation. We cannot afford not to recognize the truth. We had some speakers today. Dale talked about when I was the director of RAIN, the Regional AIDS Interfaith Network. We heard Miss Odessa talk about what in the faith community. I spent 10 years working with people of faith. And I'm talking about, there's care team members sitting here today that, no, we were in the temple, Israel Benai. We were in the mosque. We were in the churches of all denominations. I learned about denominations. Well, we didn't have time to rest on our theology. We had to walk in our faith. And I don't know how many of you have ever strolled to success. You can't. You got to flat out run. And when it comes to a disease that would take my brother or my sister, and in our community, we've always been fierce. I'm 52 years old. I grew up in Little Rock on Pine Street. Back in that day, the dynamics of family and community are not so different, but the external is very, very different. If I was walking home from school, from Central with my sisters and brothers, and we saw you getting out your car with groceries, we better get over there and help you with them groceries. You better not catch me cussing around the corner because you was going to snatch me up, check me, and call my mama. And I don't think they had scan in the 60s. If I knew it, I wouldn't have dared doubt it. No. No offense to people that serve in that capacity. I'm just talking about the generation I came from. We helped each other because all we had and only kind of trust we had was for each other. Because we had been taught not to trust institutions from a plethora of activities, right? But we knew we could trust each other. So if my daddy lost his job, the ladies in my neighborhood was going to be cooking pots of beans or bringing over whatever they could. When you outgrew your clothes and you took them to my mama, we were glad to gift them. We were glad to gift them. And it didn't matter who you was or what you looked like. When I interacted with you, it was yes ma'am and no ma'am. That's right. Because I was invested in. Beat down, but invested in. Right? And so when somebody messed up in my neighborhood, and I mean you could get drunk. I remember once seeing somebody get high on PCP. It was butt naked and it was just a mess. But do you know what? Everybody started praying for that family and doing whatever they can, and that family could go to people and talk about their problems because we sat around and we had wrap tables at the kitchen table. Right? We went to church, and it was a way of life, and we drew our strength from it. But when it came to HIV and AIDS, we were told initially that this is a gay white disease. And because of our uncomfortability, and because of our faith, and because of the way it was presented to us, we believe it had nothing to do with us, and we were very, very uncomfortable with HIV and AIDS. Just to get real with you, when I hit puberty, we had a family meeting. My mother, my father, both college educated, and my 4 siblings. And they said, Sybil's a woman now. When she's in the bathroom, you can't go in. End the conversation. Now, but Mama, being a real woman, she sat down with my sister and I and explained the birds and the bees. She said, if you save yourself for your husband, God will bless you with a baby. I was in the 9th grade. The girl got pregnant and I thought was fast. And I wanted to know why God blessed them. Oh, we need another conversation. Right? Well, they call that something else. Well, we got to close the door and whisper, was she in trouble? Never mention one body part. I don't know about you. I'm sure that your conversations, if you're my age, might have had more details. But mine, but that was about it for us. Yeah, it was like, you better keep your skirt down. But you know what I found out now? I've lived long enough to find out, and I heard it said one time in church, that it didn't matter how long your skirt was, it's where you dropped it. It affected the outcome. So when we get to HIV and AIDS, like everybody else, I've lived long enough to experience the real trauma in my And with that trauma, I was devastated and I was lost. And I kind of spiraled down from the pain of what I had survived. And my parents and my family, they circled the wagons, they took care of me and mine. They prayed for me when I could not pray for myself. They held me up when I couldn't walk on my own feet. So when it came to HIV, so I remember coming back to Arkansas and I got a job working for a real estate company. My broker was African and I was doing really well. I was very effective in selling commercial real estate. But because my family had circled the wagons and took care of me and mine when I couldn't take care of myself, my kids had gotten really addicted to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They like lights, water, and gas at the same time. And every now and then they really thought they was entitled to a DVD, a VCR movie, right? So if you know anything about real estate, you do not get paid till you close the deal. I don't care how long you work, how much work you put into it. So I took a part-time job at an AIDS service agency, RAIN, the Regional AIDS Interfaith Network. So it would not interfere with my career. This is why I know I serve a sovereign God that has a sense of humor. I had no intentions of interfering with my real estate career, with its prestige and the big money whenever you finally got it, right? But I took a part-time job so that I could keep the kids in the lifestyle they were accustomed. Cereal, bologna, macaroni and cheese. And my brother called me and he said, "What is going on, girl? You need to get back over here where we're making the money. You're over there with your eggs, but you really can't You need to get back over here, girl. I'm telling you, sweet as a pumpkin, but you better get back over here." And I said, I'm stuck over here at this AIDS service agency. I had 3 children on $277 mortgage, and I grossed $600 a month. Working with people living with AIDS that were incredibly beautiful. See, I met people that were living with AIDS, but they were not AIDS. I was meeting lawyers and doctors and judges and housewives and sons and fierce mothers. Because like I said, AIDS initially was called GRID, for gay, age-related, GRID, gay-related immune deficiency. That's initially what it was called. But see, AIDS knew something that the rest of humanity didn't figure out. Amen. It did not discriminate, and it wanted all of us, not just this section. So as it was presented to us, we didn't talk about it. We did not unite to fight it. In fact, we were so uncomfortable, we didn't talk about it, and we would keep secrets that would take the lives of those that we were encumbered and responsible for protecting and guiding, right? HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, which causes AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome. One of the first women that I met living with AIDS, and I started this in 1994. There wasn't protease inhibitor in Arkansas. People could not get buried in their churches. And you would get run out your homes, and you'd be put out of businesses. Children were being put out of school in 1994. Here and all over the South, because of fear and miseducation and stigma. Well, that's something people couldn't know about. But with this, it hit in areas we were very uncomfortable with in the first place. So I remember meeting this young lady, and one of the very first ladies I met that would work with me was a teenage girl, first boyfriend she got in the 10th grade. I understood that because we weren't allowed to date till I was 16, and that was on the front porch with my siblings present. I'll keep you from sinning. Forgive me, this is hot tea. Somebody was kind enough to give. And I'm going to tell you, it did. That worked on the front porch, but you know you don't stay on the front porch. That was the problem. Anyway, This young girl had her first boyfriend in the 10th grade, and they had a wonderful summer, 11th grade, the same boyfriend. And, and they decided to become lovers in the summer of her 11th grade going through her 12th grade. He got sick with pneumonia and died almost like this. At his gravesite, his family said, "You need to go get tested. He died from AIDS." And she had full-blown AIDS. This was, an A and B student. She was a cheerleader. She was on the student body. What did this young lady do wrong? Anybody got thought?
She wasn't educated. She didn't do that wrong. Society did it wrong.
She had no clue. Also, it depends on what arena you're in. Some people would have said she shouldn't have had sex until she got married. And back in the day, before you got married, they used to give you a blood test. They don't do that anymore. But when you talk about, this was not a bad girl. That's really the point I want you to see. This was not a bad girl. What happened is, her first lover infected her with HIV, and you know what, now, I don't know any of y'all, this is supposed to be a youth program, so we were inviting some youth, and some of us are youthful in spirit, is that right? At 52, some days I feel 20. And I know that's right, but my husband reminds me all the time. 52 is not the new 20. That's about you, that ain't about me. But I remember puberty. It sucked. Boy, I couldn't stand puberty. I don't know about y'all. Any of y'all remember puberty? Now, can you imagine being in puberty, peer pressure, and then having AIDS? Huh? This girl that made a resolve. What she would do is tell everybody that girls like her could be infected with HIV and AIDS. Because we had a secure stigma that protected us. And we found out that our heads in our sand did not cover our butts. Is that right? Is that right? And so this young woman started going to schools everywhere telling people that you could be infected with HIV and AIDS and not be on drugs, not be homosexual. You could be infected with HIV and AIDS and not be promiscuous. I remember teaching a class with young girls, and I love teaching young women. And I would talk about monogamy, how important it was to what I was teaching at the time, and this student taught me. I said, if you're going to give your body to someone, then y'all need to go take an HIV test and practice monogamy. 3 months, I say 2 or 3 months later, she saw me in the grocery store. Miss Sybil, I changed my life after that speech. Because see, when I was with you, I was kicking about 3 or 4 brothers. And it was all fine, and I cut them all down to one because of what you said. And she said, you told me I have value, and I don't think nobody ever looked me in the eye and told me I have value. So I had just that one. I cut the other ones loose. I was only sleeping with that one for 2 weeks, and I got me another one. I didn't sleep with nobody else. So you can't go to no class and talk about monogamy. You need to break it down a little lower than that. What she did was she went from the party to one at a time. So back to my first young lady, she did not meet the stereotypes. And we started hearing about, anybody remember Arthur Ashe? Yes. A wonderful man that was diagnosed with AIDS from a blood transfusion. Is that right? And Magic rocked the world, didn't he? Okay, from finding out the routes of transmission. HIV is made up of RNA. It likes to trick the body DNA into making copies of itself. And so when a person becomes infected with the virus, it makes copies of the HIV virus, and you do that, and it gets into you how? Who knows the route of transmission? I'm not talking about the Black Nurses Association. Who knows? Which I love. My good friend over here. Cheryl. Anybody know one route of transmission? Now all these grown folks scared to say sex. They must have that same verse B talking like that. Unprotected sex is one of the leading ways of infection for HIV. Now, you know, about 10 years ago, CDC told us that there was about 40,000 people being newly diagnosed with HIV every year. They were newly diagnosed because they did not include oral sex at the time. You know, we had enough sense to know the person putting all the work in is probably the one at risk. Did anybody get lost there? All of y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all know. All right. So, but then what we find out. Okay, so, but then I want you to think about this.
That's funny.
All right. Now, this brother is driving good, he's looking good, he's smelling good, and he always treats you with respect. Right? And he brings Jefferson here by Sister lunch, you know what I'm saying? Catch you at the grocery store and pay your tab. And then he tell you he been feeling you, thinking about you, and he really want to kick it with you. But his mouth is just bleeding blood. And he's like, you need to get back with me, right? Okay, but if they are brushing their teeth and got a little pink in the sink, that represents some cracks in the gum, right? And also openings for HIV infection. You can be infected. So CDC now says 56,000 people are newly diagnosed annually on American soil with HIV. Diagnosed. So there are plenty that are not, but I'm just giving 56,000 every year. And what did I tell you about that cold and different number? 56,000. Who are they? Who believes 56,000?
No idea.
Yeah. It's somebody's mama. Somebody's father. It is somebody's child. Just like a lot that we both look like and think that HIV only affected males. I don't know about you. I love God. Bold about my faith. But if you mess with one of my boys, you're going to see this fierce side. I'll probably forget my throat sore. And y'all know the same way what mothers are about their sons. Right? And how sons are about their mothers. HIV did not stay in the box. And it will be transmitted through unprotected sex, any kind of way. Oral, vaginal, anal. Now I'm going to tell you about who we are. We are created in a mysterious, wonderful way. We are created with such. We are the masterpieces of the Creator. Have any of you ever seen the sunset? A magnificent sunrise. Have any of you ever been driving by Northwest Arkansas and saw the foliage from the trees and the hills of the mountains? When you leave tonight, look and remember in the mirror and remember my words. You are the masterpiece of the Creator. And we are built and made in such a way that HIV cannot penetrate our skin. It's extremely fragile in the air. It needs a host such as the body to replicate itself. So HIV cannot come to us straight up and get into us through our skin. It's the first layer of our protection. But should something but when it comes to membranes, and if you'll take your tongue and run it up the side of your jaw, you feel that? Those are membranes. Our mouths are lined with it, our eyes, our nose, the walls of the vagina, the walls of the anus, all have mucous membranes. And the doctors and the scientists and the biologists took HIV in an incubated, controlled environment, put it right here on with a little glass. It came back the next morning, HIV sat right here. When they did that with membranes, they found it here. What does that tell you? It has the ability to penetrate membranes and get into our blood system. But I want to tell you again who you are. Since something. Now, please forgive me so I can tell the story with this hot water. Get into our blood. Our blood is even designed to defend us. It demonstrates, Karen, just how fierce the Creator made us. We have an immune system. Anybody ever heard of white blood cells? CD4 cells, T cells are fighter cells. Should something, cold, flu, cut, infection, HIV get into our bloodstream, our body starts to fight immediately and we don't even have any symptoms. It fights anything that comes inside of us to hurt us. But let me tell you about your capacity, your inner strength that you might not even be aware of, okay? I am going to be your immune system. And these tables are going to be HIV. When I point to you, if you would just shout your name, okay? Patricia, okay, y'all going to be HIV for this demonstration, right? I am the immune system. And Patricia is the HIV virus is able to get in my bloodstream, and she's coming for me. But I am created fiercely. So I am fighting her. Anybody ever seen Nikita?
Yeah.
Huh? Y'all seen Nikita? Boy, I'm telling you what. Yeah. Okay, me and Patricia go ahead because I'm the immune system. I am representing you. What's inside of you?
Sheila.
Now Sheila and Joe and Patricia, and they fight me, and I'm having to show them my clothes ain't gonna move. And I'm spinning around, you know what I'm saying? The elbow, all this stuff I always fantasize myself to do. Nisi, all three of them are fighting me. HIV is replicated, making copies of itself because it's made. The RNA is tricking the body into making copies. But I am the inside of your immune system. I am your inner strength that you never even recognize. And I mean, you know what happens? Andy, they all join me. You know what happens when girls get into a fight, right? Now they pulling my hair. They pulling my hair. And I am just fighting. And Jackie come forward and she found out what I do to my 6'2" boys. I'm like that, but they got me going. Anthony, he's giving them cheap shots and I fell down here. Anthony, he's hit me and he's stomping me. And Carmela, boy, they beat me down. But I want to tell you something about who you are, what's on the inside of you. You see how many folks I'm fighting? Do y'all see that? Yeah. This is, we refer to this as the viral load of HIV. They are all fighting me, but you know what? They got me on the ground and they're kicking me like in the movies. And you know what I'm doing? I'm beat down and suppressed, but I'm poking them in the eye. I never stop fighting for you. What you are made of never stops fighting for you. If any of you ever experienced any trauma in your own life, and you had the nerve to get up, dust yourself off, and come to a World AIDS Day event, you know that there is something on the side of you that makes you continue to rise. That's how you were created. Our immune system never stops fighting for us. And as this disease progressed, we started with 1,400 T cells with me. But as our body started making more and more copies of HIV and less copies of me, it was harder and harder, particularly if I kept putting myself in a position to be infected. Now, I love Jesus and Mr. Ward, but let's say before I met him. I think they're recording this, honey. Let's say I met Mr. Right now, and I thought his name was Mr. Right. Okay, and he got all the right moves, and he smelled good, and his hair short, and I spent the night with him Thursday night. And I discovered Mr. Right now really should have been called a 4th of July. I left saying, thank you, Jesus. Right. Woo! That brother got 4th of July, and I ain't met it. I'm doing it. Instead of meditating on God, I'm pumping gas thinking about Mr. Right now. Right? Anybody ever? Okay, some of y'all don't look like that. Okay, but some of y'all got me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anybody needs a clear definition about what I'm talking about? No, oh, okay. All right, so I got Mr. Right now is infected with HIV. Even though I had 4th of July and fireworks, I also got 10,000 copies of HIV last night, right? We don't know that because HIV is asymptomatic. You don't have any symptoms on the front end. And the ones you probably would not recognize would be like flu-like symptoms. Anybody been in Arkansas 6 months know the temperature can change so fast anybody can have flu-like symptoms. Is that right? So, okay, I'm meditating on the 4th of July. On Mr. Right now. while I'm pumping gas, while I'm at work. It's Thursday night, but praise God, it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. I tip right back on over there, and I got a little pie to give him this time. I mean, cake. Little cake. Right? And now we got 4th of July again. I just got me another 10,000 copies of HIV. But I have always been an overachiever. I'm going to tell you, I had my first baby at 30, I had 3 at 32. So I, yeah. Yeah. That's just an example of overachiever once you figure out how to do it. So, as a woman, I'm being infected repeatedly. So it's more and more copies of the HIV and less copies of the T cells, which fight off the HIV virus, right? And let's say, hypothetically in this situation, that he really didn't know he was on HIV. I mean, he was HIV positive, and that he was on a medication, we're going to say Sybil. When he had unprotected sex with me, and he gave me 10,000 copies of HIV Anthony, he gave me 10,000 copies that was already resistant to Sybil. Okay, so you see we're working with 2 strands. He's giving me his strand of HIV, but I have just got a strand because HIV is a virus that mutates. I am resistant to the medicine for life that he was taking when he infected me. But then he keeps infecting me. But here's the thing, by the time I get back over there on Sunday, I'm in reinfecting him with a strand that's resistant to the medication he's on. And we've just gotten to unprotected sex. But that's how this disease progresses. Now I want to move on to the next line, HIV positive mother giving birth to a baby. Because of labels, because of boxes. I mean, and well-intentioned people doing research saying that this is a virus of the gay community, really the gay white community, and it had nothing to do with heterosexuals or women. That women were being infected with HIV, and many would discover, I cannot tell you the number of times I've been there walking with women as they discovered they're HIV positive because they got a test because they were pregnant. Giselle talked about, I think it was Giselle talked about routine testing, that should be a part of when we have annual pap smears, or if you're pregnant, that should be. Thank you so much. You see, I need lots of help. Thank you so much, Anthony. But when a mother is HIV positive, children are not born with the immune system. And so it's easier for a child going through the birth canal to become infected with HIV. But I want to tell you about a miracle in this mess. You want to hear about a miracle? You want to hear about some mercy? Okay, let's say that Mr. Right Now didn't know he was HIV positive and he infected me, okay? We in love. It's 4th of July every day at my house. Needless to say, I come up pregnant, right? Okay, he's got HIV, I've got HIV, I'm pregnant. Children are not born with their immune system. Children do not develop immune system till they're 18 to 24 months old. So all that baby got is what? My blood and his blood, is that right? That's right. Okay? But if, because I've been diagnosed with HIV while I'm pregnant, and I adhere to the medical regimen, that's right. A child has a 98% chance of being born negative. Yes. Now, do you find that a miracle? The mama positive, the daddy positive, I ain't got no blood but theirs, and I have a 98% chance of being negative, not having HIV? Mercy. It's mercy. It's a miracle right in there. And if you live long as I have, you discover the mercy in even our own mess sometimes. Is that right here? Yeah. And so, women now are starting to, as we've gotten this message out, this pandemic has been here 30 years. Okay, that's what that was for. I'm going down my, you can tell I'm from the South. I go to the store here and I come back to what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, come back to what I was talking about. Now we're sharing needles. This conference over, and we've all heard if you share needles, you can be infected with HIV, relatively simple. But it's so funny, every time I go to a college and talk about you can be infected with HIV if you're smoking weed, people go, what? What? What you mean, Miss Sybil? What you mean? Smoking crack, smoking crystal, smoking a joint and having a drink. I'm going to tell you back when I drank, and it has been 18 years since I had a drink. If something happened to me when you drank a pina colada. Anybody ever heard of pina colada? Yeah. I drink a pina colada and I could feel the music. My hair grew down the hip. Don't let me have a wine cooler too. I want everybody on the table. Come on. I'm going to tell you what. My sons and husbands, the only thing they ask me to do is not dance in public. I don't know why. I think it's because I quit drinking. I just don't know why. And I love to dance. I dance all over my house. But they don't want me to dance in public. So they tell you what that drink did for me, right? If it made my hair grow down to here. And where's Deborah? Deborah Perry gave me a weed one time, y'all. She gave me a weed. And I just love that wig. I didn't drink, but I felt like Tina Turner. Boy, I just felt I could do a tail feather. And I was in this really big power meeting. And I had that wig on, and for some reason, I just had to shake my head. That wig fell off. I was talking to this woman. I just bent down. See, there's nothing else I had. The whole time, my mouth was wide open. I was talking about HIV then. I had some demonstrations of when you can take a woman and how she might look to a man and then how she looks 6 beers later. Okay? And I can't tell you the number of teenage males that I have talked to that would drink a beer and smoke a joint. And what we really call that is liquid courage. You know, they had peer pressure, they didn't feel good about themselves, they had insecurities. And a little drink or a little toke would take the edge off. And then they could be who they thought they always wanted to be. They could, no, I didn't say dance like Tina Turner, but they could dance. And so they would invite some girl to come kick it with them and give them something to take an edge off. And what do we know about drugs and alcohol? Any kind of mood of mind altering substance. Lowers the inhibitions. You can do stuff you think you didn't know you could do. And people ask the question to me all the time, well, is that because it's a gateway drug? Or is cigarettes a gateway drug? If you smoke cigarettes, you will be more comfortable smoking a joint than a person who don't smoke anything at all. And so it's a gateway to be more comfortable. But once you get a joint in you, that lowers your inhibitions. You might take a drink. Or you might take a dip in something that you will never forget. And it has multiple of consequences. Is that right? Well, we know, I ask people all the time, how many of you know someone that is addicted to drugs and alcohol? How, if you don't, or know someone that knows someone? No. How many of you love someone that's addicted to drugs and alcohol, or love someone that loves someone? All of our lives have been touched, right? HIV and AIDS is just that simple. All it takes is one unprotected sex event to be infected with HIV. All it takes is experimenting. And I knew this incredible guy who got his heart broke. And what he did was he went to a relative's house who gave him an intravenous drug shot. First thing he did, drink drug and never smoked a cigarette. First thing he ever did was injected drugs. And became an addict instantly. And ended his journey with AIDS-related conditions. And needle transfusions. It is safe to donate blood. I want to say that again. It is safe to donate blood. I want to encourage you, if you can, to donate blood. That is a life-giving gift. Is that right, healthcare professionals? Right. It is safe to donate blood. There are safeguards in place. What you have to consider is if you're going to receive a blood transfusion. And here my sweet sister here, Patricia Minor. She'll be there. She'll be first one to tell you that if you're going to donate blood, I mean, if you need blood, they have screenings in place. Is that right? But we think that if you know that you're going to have a surgery, elective surgery, you might need to donate your own blood, have it screened and say to you, because there is something called a window period. So a lot of times person going to treatment, they'll say, oh, I'm going to party hard like I'm a rock star because I'm going to go into treatment tomorrow and ain't going to never get high again. Right? And they party hard, get to know people much deeper than they'd ever planned on, and could go and then get to treatment. A week later, we give them an HIV test, and they would test negative because they were just infected last weekend. The body, and there are two types of tests. One is ELISA, which screens the blood for the antibodies to fight the virus. And then there's Western blot, which screens the blood for the virus itself. Universally, ELISA is used first because it's cheaper and more effective. Now, if you go. And so the body does not produce enough antibodies to be found by the test. But one thing about Mrs. Connolly, with organizing this event and the health department and the collaboration of all of us, the test that we use is a second generation test, highly sensitive because of 30 years of epidemiology and technology. We can tell if this test can find the antibodies to fight the virus if you were infected 91 days ago. If you were infected 90 days ago, this test can find it. So if a person is infected with the virus, they can infect another person and test negative the first 90 days. That's why we recommend for everyone, if you're not a virgin, I used to say that, but just everybody need to take an HIV test. And Giselle said the best when she said, oh, I've been married 10 years. Take an HIV test. Because I know a number of men that were on the down low, that were infected and infected their wives, and I know women that had creeped out and got infected with the virus and came back and brought it to their husbands. And so it's really important that you take an HIV test. They have been insured with this collaboration today. If every last one of you want a test and got a friend you want to call, they come get a test. Is that right with Ms. Conley? Is that right? Yeah, we're ready for you. And one of the things is anytime we go to schools, we want to test as many as possible. What time is it? 1:30? Okay. So what happens with the virus, we found out who we are, how we were created with our bodies, and how we fiercely are able to defend our body against HIV, how fragile it is outside the body, how it's transmitted, the window period, how you can be infected, affect another person, but test negative only for the first 90 days, and then the transmission of this virus and how fast it goes if you continue to be infected. Let's say you got infected, came into treatment, left drugs and alcohol alone. Done. Before you give your body to someone, and I need to tell you what your body is. It is your only vehicle through this life. Your body is a precious gift, and it's the only one you get through this life. It is to be valued just like it is. Okay, I used to joke all the time and say if my husband get $1 million, I was gonna fix this one vehicle up. I was gonna fix it up where I'd never drown. I was gonna suck some things in I wanted to keep to myself. But my husband don't have $1 million. So what I gotta do is love me right where I am, just like I look with what I got going on. Is that right? Right. You can always get a bigger size, right? Praise God. Okay, I guess I better wrap it up. I see Bruce over here with a speaker, so this gray area is when you start to experience in AIDS-defining conditions, where your body would be able to fight off some things that is harder to fight off now. And I gave y'all that fighting demonstration, right? When they beating you down, all you can do is poke that eye. You can get pneumocystis pneumonia, red flag for HIV, and that oftentimes is how we used to find that people were positive. Carposis sarcoma, red lesions all over the body, histoplasmosis, toxoplasmosis, being exposed to bird droppings. I had a friend that worked for the state, good looking, party didn't start till he showed up. Oh, he was so much fun and so good looking, smelled good all the time. And he was diagnosed with AIDS. He told all his friends and discovered a new word. Where he thought he had a whole bunch of friends, he had fair weather friends. Then he lost his job. Now when you lose your job, your friends, your looks, guess who was there to love him? His mama. And he planted her a flower bed. And, oh, it's 1:30, time's up. What was my time, huh? Now I gotta remember my throat sore too, okay? And he ended up with histoplasmosis. He got lesions in the brain. Or you get lesions in the lungs. After you have 2 or more AIDS-defining conditions, and your T cells go to 200, now you have AIDS. We hear a lot about people not having AIDS anymore. They can become non-detectable, but once you cross the line to AIDS, you will always have AIDS. You are just non-detectable, which also minimizes the risk of transmission. Now I want to end with this, that when you see this, you recognize that these are concentrations of HIV. This is a finger prick of blood under a microscope. There's heavy concentrations of HIV virus in blood, semen, vaginal fluid, amniotic fluid, that's the fluid the baby's in, or breast milk. In Africa, women make a choice every day of, oh, okay. Thought I was dropping something. I think that's the speaker. And what that was falling off. I'm 52, I told you, I didn't know what that was. Yeah, okay. They make a choice every day of knowing, watching their babies starve to death and their belly swelling and their eyes getting big, or nursing their babies from their breasts, and they know that they have AIDS and that they're also feeding their baby AIDS. There are entire villages that have been lost, that have died. There's my friend from AIDS-related conditions, and children are orphaned by HIV. I am a bigger risk as a healthy woman with I don't know what I got, a cold, a bug, to a person living with HIV. I remember when some of my closest friends that I've ever had with lifetime friendships that I'll have always. My babies had a cold, and my friend was gonna keep my babies, and I said, oh, they can't keep the babies. And they said, because they got HIV and your kids are sick. I said, no, because my kids are sick. And they could get my friend with HIV sick because her immune system couldn't fight the meds they got. Their immune system can come back. Ain't nobody more resilient than a baby with all the nasty stuff little boys get into, right? So with me having a cold, for those that I love and living with HIV, I can't shake their hand or hug them and hang out like I would because I'm a risk to them. A person, see, I want you to see this. These body fluids, tears, urine, bowel movement, vomit, sweat, cough, sputum, and those nasal drip, right? Typically, how many times you go to somebody's house and see buckets of these? Not often. Me, never. But if you're a healthcare professional, you might interact with some of those, and what's used is universal precautions. If it's wet and it's not yours, don't touch it. A person living with HIV does not put you in danger because through casual contact. You are valuable. Whatever you survive, you are incredibly valuable and precious. Invest in yourself enough to take an HIV test. If you're going to share your one vehicle through this life, make sure that it's a whole different class about worth and value and self-esteem. But make sure you take an HIV test. If a person's not willing to take a free HIV test, they may already know. Right. And if you know somebody living with HIV, you need to touch with love, but used to be touched with fear. And if you've got somebody that's living with AIDS in your family and you've kept that secret, do not ever honor that which will come to hurt what you love. Can you get that? Right. We don't honor with secrets what would hurt us, what will hurt those that we love. We need to dialogue honestly about the choices we've made and about HIV and AIDS. I love my kids enough to tell them over and over to brush their teeth until they just do it. Some messages bear repeating. I thank you so much for the privilege and honor of talking on this room today, and thank you for allowing me to do so in this condition. You know, if we hadn't been tested, I want you to know I would have dressed up in a suit. but I thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I have really run out of time. We'll be around and you can ask any of us in these red shirts. You see these professionals with Ms. Linda Conley. You see the health department. We're all happy to answer your questions. All right, thank you.
Let me get away before we give you a certificate of appreciation. We really enjoyed that. Thanks so very much for presenting to us.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
All right, right now we'll have are we going to break it? Are there any questions on this Ward? We've done those speaking goodness a few minutes. We'll take a few questions. Does anybody have any questions on this Ward?
Sybil, I just have one question for you. On the making sure you get tested, because I like the shirt that say "I know do you." How often are we saying get tested?
We think that everybody needs a test blanketly. You need a follow-up test, and if the test is negative, you need another test in 90 days. Yeah, because if you know you had unprotected sex yet you think you missed a bullet and you tested negative, then you go back and take another test. If you get a new partner, y'all go together, take a test, come back in 90 days and take another one. And then probably once a year until you change a lifestyle where you know, probably once a year.
Sybil, I have a question. Looking at individuals that are HIV positive and those that may smoke, what is a recommended strategy of approach to get them to stop smoking?
Well, I think that it's probably going to have to be individualized. I really truly believe that if a person has a compromised immune system, if they're living with HIV, they need to stop smoking. And so sometimes when you have a long history of smoking, you need something to help you. You know, I shared with you how I quit smoking after smoking 29 years. But they have gum, they have patches, they have lozenges, they have hypnotherapy. But it's very important, I think, if you're living with HIV, you need to pick a quit date, get some people that are partnering with you, and you need to stop and do whatever it takes if you need one of those. That's how I stopped with gum. But I know people that have lozenges and patches to help them because you replace it, and you don't want to replace it with cookies. But it's really important. Yeah. I'm working on that. I ain't smoked 2 years, I'm still trying to put the cookies down.